Come on now. It's been a while since I used my superpowers. What's cracking, audio fans? It's David here from Prime Audio Reviews. So today I'm looking at the Moondrop Sparks TWS or True Wireless Stereo earphones. And here is the box. We've got our Moondrop waifu there on the front. I know a lot of people are a fan of that. It's a pretty cool little box here. On the back of the box there are some specifications in tiny little print there and a frequency response graph. I just wanted to show you what comes in the box, apart from the earphones of course, because the Moondrop Sparks has the best selection of ear tips that I've ever seen with a TWS earphone, and we need to see more like this. This is brilliant. So you got, I'm not even going to count them, there's heaps there. There is even a pair of foam ear tips as well, so I love that, it's really good to see. And of course you get a USB Type-C charging cable. Right, so here's the case, and as you can see, it is a sort of translucent plastic material and it looks really cool. It feels very well built, it's nice and sturdy. It is a little bit kind of larger than some of the other TWS cases that I've got, but it's still reasonably small, as you can see there. On the back is a USB Type-C charging port, and the lid seals magnetically, so you don't have to worry about your bits falling out. And let's have a look at the earpieces now as well. So here they are, typical in-ear monitor style IEM shells, nicely built again. The right one here's got a sun on it, and the left one's got the moon on it. I will say the nozzles are quite long on this. Oh, by the way, these shells are made of the same translucent material as the charging case, and you can just kind of see the dynamic driver in there, which by the way is a beryllium coated dynamic driver, but I'll get to that in just a moment. So yeah, long nozzles, so they're kind of designed for deep insertion. I prefer to use a shallow, larger wide bore tip. It gives me a slightly better fit, but they do protrude a little bit out of my ears, but I find them pretty comfortable overall. Okay, so let's quickly cover some of the specifications now. The price of the Moondrop Sparks is $89. Comes with Bluetooth 5.2. Your transmission formats or audio codecs are aptX adaptive, aptX, and of course AAC and SBC. So you're pretty well covered there. The battery life is about 8 hours with an additional 48 hours from the case. They are NFC compatible, and the driver, as I mentioned, is a beryllium coated dynamic driver. Alright, so without any further ado, let's get on to how they sound. And the Sparks here are tuned to the VDST, or the Virtual Diffuse Sound Field. So they have a fairly kind of a light, airy presentation, a little bit kind of bright, neutral bright tonality. Good bass response with slightly more emphasis on the sub bass, but the sub bass extends quite well, and these get a pretty nice little rumble going on for your sub bass notes. And the mid bass is not as emphasized as the sub bass, but it is still quite punchy. It's reasonably fast. Remember, it's got that beryllium driver inside, and overall, yeah, the bass sounds quite good on these there. They're not as bassy as your regular TWS earphone. That could be an advantage or disadvantage depending on your personal preferences. So it's pretty fast, pretty well defined, and overall good quality bass. Now, in terms of the mid-range is slightly lean in tonality, although there is some warmth obviously that carries over from the bass. But for the most part, fairly neutral in the lower and core mid-range. Now the thing about the VDSF tuning, or the diffuse field tuning, is the emphasis is put on sort of the upper mids or lower treble area at about, well, the Sparks here, they peak at around 3 to 4 kilohertz. and that is the sort of presence region, the vocal presence region. So they're very vocal centric in their tuning. Some people may find that a little bit bright or fatiguing, or shouty is another term. Myself, I didn't have a problem with it. I find that the quantity of the bass is enough to kind of negate that slight brightness in the upper mid range there, or in that presence region. But yeah, vocals sound very forward indeed. Not too cloying or intimate, but male and female vocals alike do sound slightly lean in their note size, but pretty good tone overall throughout the mid-range. The detail retrieval is quite good on these, maybe a little above average for a TWS. And in terms of resolution, I would say they're about average. They're not great. Instrument separation is pretty good, but because of that emphasis on the 3 to 4 kilohertz peak region, it tends to slightly lower the overall resolution a little bit. But the overall clarity throughout the mid-range is really good. From top to bottom, the clarity is good, and yeah, no complaints about the mid-range. So moving on to the treble, and after that presence peak, the treble starts to gradually kind of fall off, but it extends quite well. So although the treble isn't that forward, it's not a really precise treble, it is nice and crispy, and it does provide a nice sense of airiness. It's a fairly open, spacious sounding IEM despite those forward vocals. So I don't have any complaints about the treble. I didn't find these particularly fatiguing. Maybe after a little while, if I'm listening to a lot of vocal heavy music, they might get a little bit tiring after some time, but you know, I'm talking maybe 1 or 2 hours minimum. So don't really have a problem with that. So there we have it. Those are the Moondrop Sparks. The overall sound quality is kind of more high fidelity than your average TWS earphone. It sounds a bit cleaner. By the way, the soundstage is quite good on these as well. It's not huge, but it does have a nice open stage feeling to it. But overall, it is a high quality sound. It's very much sort of tuned towards what we call an audiophile tuning, which means a little bit brighter, probably neutral bright, with a little bit of bass emphasis, but not over the top. And overall, I think they sound pretty great. Okay, so to sum up now, let's talk about the pros of the Moondrop Sparks. Good battery life, so you get 8 hours from the earpieces, another 48 from the case, so good battery life. The build quality of the shells and the case is really nice. The overall clarity of the audio and the tonality of the audio I find quite pleasing and pretty classy for a TWS earphone, and a pretty good soundstage. Now, in terms of the cons, or things that I don't like, there aren't any extra features with the Sparks here. So there's no active noise cancellation. There's no onboard volume controls, which disturbs me a little bit. You get your regular playback controls and you can activate your voice assistant, but there are no volume controls, so you have to reach for your phone to adjust the volume. I forgot to mention the mic quality. The microphone and call quality is actually quite good, so your voice will come through nice and clearly during phone calls. But back to the cons, the other thing is the maximum volume might be a little bit low for some people. It's ample for me, but I generally don't listen to my music all that loud, but I can actually turn these up to full volume, and it's sort of just, it's bearable. It's a little bit unpleasant for me, but it doesn't sort of hurt my ears. So if you like to listen to your music especially loud, this might not be the best choice for you. But apart from that, so that about sums it up for the Moondrop Sparks, guys. Don't forget, there is a link to the full written review on my website in the description below, as well as links to all my social media channels. And yeah, that's it. So if you like this video, give it a thumbs up, Parfam audiophile style. And if you're new to the channel and want to see more reviews like this in the future, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. And until next time, I'll see you later.
EMT is en route.